So here we are. This is an article that Sean Collins did on Surfline. I knew Sean Collins from surfing down in Baja. He passed away last year. But before he passed away, he was doing this article, and he called me up, and he wanted to get more familiar with the watershed that was in the area here. And we came up with a couple conclusions that I'll get into a little bit later here.
And these are all the credits for the photos, and so...
Yeah, Ben Marcus added a lot of photos here. This is the Malibu watershed. I like that picture that Glenn had earlier that showed 109 miles of tributaries. That little point right there. This is looking down from the canyon. You can see the creek kind of splitting a little bit. This area here is always in a fluster. It's always changing. This is really a great picture. This is from 2,000 years ago. A geologist's depiction of what the whole floodplain looked like. This is probably Ralph's right around here, the post office, Colony right through here. This whole area was a mix of probably water and flood and a wetlands area. 400, 500 years later, the whole lagoon system was filling with more sediment. But there was still a berm along the ocean here that trapped the water behind the berm, and it would fill up back here. This looks like the closed lagoon depiction. There's the lagoon with all of the man-made obstructions that have been brought into the wetlands that have really, really changed the dynamics of how the water flows in the whole floodplain. This is 1854. This particular year, I just read the other day that there was a settler that lived in Malibu Canyon who was trapping and kind of poaching off the land. He actually was mauled by a grizzly bear. One of the last grizzly bears in Southern California. 1877. I'm thinking that the present day creek is kind of coming down more in this area. I think it's shifted directions a couple times, but it's taking a different course back in that time. It shows the fingers going back behind the colony berm there too. Another picture, 1903. This is interesting because it really does show Old Joe's rocks in relationship to where the lagoon used to extend to the west. 1911. Not too many people around. This is 1924. This is a really clear depiction of where you can see different stream beds that have formed over time. The current main channel is coming right through here. It's pretty much nowadays restricted because of the bridge that we have. But back before the day of the bridge, the creek used to jump its bank up further up the canyon, and this is an old riparian ancient creek bed that you can tell that used to take its course there. These are probably alder trees and other vegetation. It's dry there now, but you can see that it did take its course there at one time. It's also sometimes back up near the Arizona Retreat, it skipped its bank up here and actually come across near where the library is, where Papa Jack's is, and it's actually flowed off into the floodplain way in the past that way. I'll show you another picture. This picture actually kind of shows just what that's doing. You can see this is 1938. This is during this is the first of the two big giant storm systems that hit in the last 100 years that actually transported a lot of cobblestones further out to sea here. You can see where the water wants to go into this area and you can see the ponding. These are all ponds back here. And you can see that if this highway wasn't built here, this water would be coming back here and filling up this whole area back here. There was like a big channel in the lagoon. This used to almost, there's another channel here. But there used to be, the water used to sometimes jump its bank, come here and flow back down this way and exit down at the main channel down here.
The colony is a single-loaded community there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty actually well-developed colony in 1938, and they had to, in order to build the second row houses back, they had to bring in a lot of fill and fill in these channels that would fill up during floods. It was actually This was a big flood, and it's cooling up out here. So you can see with the natural area where
You
once
can see Colony Road's elevated for sure.
yeah. Well, I think they brought in a lot of fill. Probably when they were building this road here.
Is that Colony Road?
This is Colony Road here.
That straight line?
Yeah.
Right, that's where the guardhouse is, that other road right
This is
there.
probably.
So they didn't
Guardhouse
build
Road
houses
here.
on this side until later on?
Yeah.
They had to fill this in. They had to fill all of this in to build up, you know, I think Little John's house is probably right in here. This is 1940. I love this picture because it shows what Andy thinks that the 1983 restoration project cost. Andy thinks that building the channels and putting more water in over here pushed the creek over to first, and that's why the creek is letting out at first. Well, this is a picture that kind of proves Andy wrong. This is 3 years after the 1938, this is actually a 1941 picture, but it's 3 years after the 1938 blowout. It blew out the whole berm. But the vegetation on the berm here, that thing's been burned over, and vegetation is growing all the way out, almost to First Point, like 2-3 years ago. So this creek has been letting out here for about 3 years, probably nonstop. I don't think it ever sealed up and let back out up here. So it's nonstop. Probably the water tables were as full as they could be after that flood. And all the aquifers were full. The creek was probably full for years. It never dried up. It constantly kept this on. And during this time, the surf was epic. It was some of the best surf that Malibu's ever seen in the early 40s.